European leaders are meeting in Brussels to decide on the future of Brexit. UK Prime Minister Theresa May tried to accelerate Brexit talks, but her European counterparts want to know how many EU citizens living in Britain will pay to exit the bloc. Let's cut across straight to UK Prime Minister Theresa May addressing the media.
On Iran, we have reiterated our firm commitment to the nuclear deal, which we believe is vitally important for our shared security. And last night at dinner, I spoke to my fellow leaders about my vision for a new deep and special partnership between the UK and the European Union after Brexit. A partnership based on the same set of fundamental beliefs in not just democracy and rule of law, but also free trade, rigorous and fair competition, strong consumer rights and high regulatory standards. I am ambitious and positive for Britain's future and for these negotiations, but I know we still have some way to go. Both sides have approached these talks with professionalism and a constructive spirit, and we should recognise what has been achieved to date. The UK and the EU share the same objective of safeguarding the rights of EU nationals living in the UK and UK nationals living in the EU. EU citizens have made a huge contribution to our country, and let me be clear that whatever happens, we want them and their families to stay. While there are a small number of issues that remain outstanding on citizens' rights, I'm confident that we are in touching distance of a deal. On Northern Ireland, we've agreed that the Belfast Agreement must be at the heart of our approach, and that Northern Ireland's unique circumstances demand specific solutions. It is vital that joint work on the peace process is not affected in any way. It is too important for that. And both sides agree that there cannot be any physical infrastructure at the border and that the common travel area must continue. We have both committed to delivering a flexible and imaginative approach on this vital issue. This Council is an important moment. It is a point at which to assess and reflect on how to make further progress. My speech in Florence made two important steps which have added a new impetus to the negotiations. I gave a firm commitment on the financial settlement, and I proposed a time-limited implementation period based on current terms, which is in the interest of both the UK and the EU. Both sides agree that subsequent rounds have been conducted in a new spirit. My fellow leaders have been discussing this morning, and I believe that it is in the interests of the UK that the EU27 continues to take a united approach. But if we are going to take a step forward together, it must be on the basis of joint effort and endeavour. We must work together to get to an outcome that we can stand behind and that works for all our people. Thank you. Now I'll take a few questions. Let's start with the BBC.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Do you deny that you've made clear to your EU counterparts that you are willing to pay many more billions than you've already indicated to settle our accounts as we leave?
What I've made clear to my EU counterparts in relation to financial contribution is what I set out in my Florence speech, which is that I have said that nobody need be concerned for the current budget plan, that they would have to either pay in more or receive less as a result of the UK leaving, and that we will honour the commitments that we have made during our membership. Now, there has to be detailed work on those commitments, as David Davis has said. We're going through them line by line and will continue to go through them line by line, and the British taxpayer wouldn't expect its government to do anything else. And Tom.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Tom Newton-Dunn from The Sun. The deal that is now on the table for the December summit is quite clear, isn't it? It's if you detail further your thinking on what commitments you mean and what you're prepared to pay for, the EU27 will move on to the next phase. Are you prepared to spell out any more details to them, to us, to anybody on what you want to pay for?
No. What we are doing as we look across the weeks coming up to the December Council is looking at a range of issues on which we are still, some of which we're, as I say, in touching distance of an agreement, such as on citizens' rights. I believe that's important because I have always made clear that I think that citizens' rights should be a top priority. And as I've just said in answer to the first question on the financial issue, we will be going line by line through those commitments. I'm positive and optimistic about where we we can get to in relation to the future partnership that we want with the European Union, because it's not only in the interests of the British people, it's in the interests of people across the remaining 27 members of the European Union as well. And as I understand it, following the discussion that has taken place this morning, we will see the EU considering their response into the Florence speech in terms of the sort of vision that they have for the partnership that we can have for the future. But I'm optimistic it will be a good one, because it is what will be one that will be to the benefit of people across the United Kingdom and the rest of the European Union. Faisal.